So there's so many claims right now that, the Iranians are in trouble. They're not getting along. There are fractures within the regime. And it's interesting because we heard nothing about this until suddenly all these news outlets start making the same claim simultaneously. In fact, Donald Trump, our president, posted about this on Truth Social, saying, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I mean, I feel like Iran has been very clear in what their proposal is. They want to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't do that before, but since we attacked them, they have now made good on their promise to control the Strait of Hormuz, and they intend to continue doing so. We have seen some willingness from the Iranians when it comes to, their enriched uranium. But the problem with this whole situation is the fact that the Iranians, for good reason, don't trust Donald Trump. And they say it over and over again. Iran was hit with 2 surprise attacks by the United States as they were engaging in negotiations. The first time was during the 12-day war when we went in and bombed their nuclear facilities. Trump claimed that they were obliterated, that there was no reason to go back in. But his handlers had a good talk with him in the Situation Room and goaded him into going into a longer war, which has now turned into a quagmire with Iran. And that's where we are today. The only fracturing I see is the fracturing of the Republican Party here in the United States, with some Republicans, having their head on straight, understanding and realizing what a devastation this war has been for the US. And then you have those who lick Trump's boots no matter what and are telling themselves pretty little lies about how things are going real well in Iran when in fact they are not. At least things aren't going well for us and the globe if you take a good hard look at the global economy. Okay, but when it comes to the IRGC, what kind of fracturing is he talking about? I haven't seen it myself. Well, the IRGC is, first of all, let me just say, there's no in-depth reporting on this, no specificity, yet mainstream media, I guess, took note and just started running with this narrative. So Colonel Daniel Davis was recently speaking to Trita Parsi, the co-founder of the Quincy Institute. And I really appreciate Trita Parsi's perspective on this matter. He's clearly an expert on foreign policy, particularly foreign policy involving Iran. So let's hear what he has to say about this fracturing narrative.
This was shortly after the Jesse Waters show. He says, breaking: the Iranian Guard just took the Ayatollah hostage, was the report last night. Generals are blocking peace talks, holding their own negotiations, holding their own negotiators hostage while their economy collapses. No one is calling the shot. A coup is in the works. Funny though, I didn't see any reporting of that anywhere else in the world.
Essentially what Trump is doing is that he's kind of washing his hands of this. He's created a major mess in the region. And now he's like, we're going to have indefinite ceasefire, which creates a new scenario in which he's pulled out of the war, but he hasn't resolved the issue. And to be able to make that more palpable, we're putting out this narrative that says, well, the whole reason why this is happening is not because Trump is pulling out and washing his hands and wants to move on to other issues, but because the Iranians don't have their act together. So it's a convenient narrative to put out. It's part of the blame game, but it is disconnected from reality. At a minimum, we cannot say that there's any evidence that connects it to reality.
We obliterated their Navy. We obliterated them. They're done. They're fracturing. Mission accomplished. We can pull out of this war and everything will be fine. Except everything won't be fine. First of all, indefinite ceasefire means you're still at war, right? And that war can be sparked at any minute. And by the way, I don't fully trust Donald Trump in that he would pull out and just leave it at that. I think it's very easy to goad him into conflict, goad him into war. The other thing is, how much money have we spent? How much military equipment have we lost? How many of our bases in the Gulf have been destroyed? And what exactly did we get in return? What did we get in return? 13 of our soldiers are dead. What? So what we got in return was the Strait of Hormuz being closed. The Iranians taking control of the Strait of Hormuz. That's our big success story. What is this? Now look, we're in a terrible situation. Terrible situation. It would have been far better if we decoupled from Israel prior to this war popping off. So the imbecile known as the President of the United States wouldn't get manipulated by Mossad and Benjamin Netanyahu in the Situation Room on February 11th, as he did, and didn't end up risking everything to go to war with a country that didn't even have military capability, didn't have weaponry that could even reach the United States. Oh, but they could reach Europe. Were they threatening Europe? What are we even talking about? They weren't threatening Europe. The only people who felt threatened by Iran were the Israelis. And they should have felt threatened. They kept encroaching on and attempting to steal land from their neighbors. That's why Hezbollah exists. Hezbollah formed after 1982, after the Israelis invaded southern Lebanon. So like it's a very simple, I mean, just you can distill it, right? Like just take it and think of it in your own personal context, okay? If I just start busting through the door of my neighbor's house and I start stealing his or her crap, they're probably gonna take action, right? No, am I worried that my neighbor is gonna attack me out of nowhere? No, I'm not worried about my neighbor because humans don't work that way. That's not how humans work. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing, right? But Israel would like to expand its borders without any challenge, without any resistance. And really the heart of the resistance right now is Iran. Iran is what funds Hezbollah. Iran is what funds the Houthis. Iran supports Hamas. And you can't have that, right? But here's the thing, Iran is not an easy country to defeat. And expecting to win a war like this in this ham-handed way where you have one meeting in the Situation Room with a bunch of bad people who are intentionally lying to you. I mean, it's absurd, but that's what Trump did. Absolutely absurd. The only reporting on the so-called fracturing of the IRGC comes from sources like Fox News. They're huge cheerleaders for this war, or Axios, which quite frankly, I don't think can be trusted if the byline is Barak Ravid, because he's like a former IDF intelligence guy who clearly still has connections to the Israelis, right? So is Barak Ravid doing factual reporting, or is he using US media in order to build up narratives that are beneficial for the Israelis? Which, by the way, what is beneficial to the Israelis is not necessarily beneficial for the American people. In fact, oftentimes it's the opposite. But nonetheless, here's what Barak Ravid claims. Iran civilian leaders, including Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, favored continuing talks to extend the ceasefire and reach a deal. But Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Commander General Ahmad Vahidi and his deputies refused to offer concessions and oppose negotiations as long as the naval blockade continues, the sources said. I don't believe this reporting at all. I don't believe it at all. Every single person we've heard from in the Iranian government has said, if you keep the blockade in place, we are not going to agree to have any conversations or any negotiations, because a blockade on Iranian vessels is an act of war. So it violates the ceasefire. I haven't heard any disagreement within the IRGC on that matter at all. Now, Ravid suggests that US seizure of an Iranian cargo ship has, deepened this rift. And when I say deepen the rift, I'm not even talking about deepening the rift between the United States and Iran, deepening the rift among the Iranians, among members of the regime. I don't buy it. And that Trump will give the IRGC some time to, work out their fake power struggle that he alleges that they're dealing with right now. Again, I don't see any evidence to support what Trump is claiming here. And I actually agree with Trita Parsi. This is a narrative that's being built up in order to provide an excuse for the US to kind of step aside, step away. But will Trump be able to step away? And the answer to that is unequivocally no. The Israelis will ensure that we are involved in this war unless the American government is finally willing to do what's necessary and decouple from Israel. So we actually have foreign policy and policy in general that benefits the American people. The American people should be first. And if you're wondering how the Iranians interpret the indefinite ceasefire that Trump announced just yesterday, well, they're skeptical to say the least. So Mahdi Mohammadi, who is the national security advisor to the Iranian parliamentary speaker and chief negotiator, Ghalibaf, wrote this on X. Trump's ceasefire extension means nothing. The losing side cannot dictate terms. The continuation of the siege is no different from bombardment and must be met with a military response. Moreover, Trump's ceasefire extension is certainly a ploy to buy time for a surprise strike. The time for Iran to take the initiative has come. So, I mean, if you interpret this the way I'm interpreting it, it almost seems as though Iran could even hit, I don't know, US or Gulf targets. And when I say US, I don't mean mainland USA. They can't reach us with their missiles. Okay, I want to be clear about that. But there could be some US military targets that they're eyeing or Gulf targets that they're eyeing. I have no idea. But they're not really buying what Trump is selling when it comes to this indefinite ceasefire. And I think that the point about buying time is an important one when you consider the fact that the United States is running out of missile interceptors. And not just that. I mean, it's not just the defensive military capability we're worried about here. We're using a lot of our weaponry, offensive weaponry. So time to, I guess, refuel could be a possibility. But here's the problem, guys. Part of what has made Iran so difficult to defeat is they're relying on much cheaper weaponry, drones, for instance, that are not only cheap, but easy to produce. What's up with our, production capability here? I mean, think about how much our government throughout the decades has kneecapped us by off-sourcing or offshoring manufacturing and production of pretty much everything. So we don't really have a manufacturing base here to build the weapons as quickly as we would need to build them, considering how quickly Iran can build these cheap and easy to make drones. So who knows what's going to happen? I do think that Trump knows that we're in a bad spot. I think he's trying to spin this in a way that doesn't look so bad for the United States. But as long as we remain allies with a country that does not have our best interests in mind at all, and thinks it's totally okay to use our money and American human lives to carry out their own agenda, we're going to keep finding ourselves at a disadvantage over and over and over again. And I think it's enough. I think we should move forward. I think we should move on. We should forge better alliances with countries that see it as a 50-50 relationship. A little give and take, as opposed to a country like Israel that does nothing but take and even kills American citizens in the West Bank.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.